Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is episode 25 in my garage build series. So today I'm going to be installing the 24 gauge painted steel soffit on the garage. It's heavy duty. So we're going to be doing the F&J as well, which we need to do to install this. So let's get started. So now what I'm doing is I'm getting ready for soffit because I have to get some blocking done here. And I wanted to show you a little bit how I'm doing that. So there's a couple of different ways to do soffit. Sometimes people run the eaves all the way out and then make a little box, and then that one on the ends here butts into that. The way that I like to do it, I think it just looks a little cleaner, but I like to run the gable ends down past, and I like to end this with the building. So I want to show you a little bit of how I prep that blocking. So yeah, when I'm prepping to get the soffit ready here, what I do is I have a F&J channel that's going to run along here. The soffit's going to slip into this. I like to do soffit square with the building like this instead of angled with the rafter tails. Some people like to do it angled. I like to do it like this, so that is level across here. And so like I said, some people like to run these eaves out past, and then they build a little box right here as a return, and then the upper one comes down on the gable ends and butts into that, and then they just finish this out with fascia or something. The way that I'm doing it, I'm going to have this one run down past, so this F&J channel is going to run down to here, and then the soffit will come across this way and it'll end here, and then a little piece of fascia will trim this off. So what I did, I like to have a straight edge like a level or something, and I just have this come across the building like this, and then I get a mark out here. You can kind of see my mark right there. It's kind of crude, but it gives the idea, because that's just kind of a reference to get me close, and then I double check it when I'm putting it up there. So then what I did, a rafter square will come in really handy for this. I did this to square off the building. To do that, first I did it the long way to see where it touches on the fascia out here and where it's square off the building. See, just like that. It's hitting there, perfectly square there. I also double check it with a level just to make sure that they agree, to see if there's much variation, but there's not, so that's good. And then I cut this block, and so the F&J channel is going to come down just like this. So all this is going to be extra. The main thing that you care about is this to support this, so that's why this one can be angled. Then I cut this piece. I'm just using 2x6 because I have lots of scrap. You can use something taller if you have, like if you have a 2x12 and do this all in one piece. Depending on how steep your roof angle is, you don't need it as wide, but in my case it's about 12 inches wide. If I were to go all the way to the tip, I don't really care about that because that's going to pretty much just be covered by the top of the F&J channel. So that's going to be just fine. It'll float across that just fine. So I just cut this piece in here nice and tight. Got this sitting here, and you can kind of see my mark right there. So then I flush it up here, and you can put a block in right back here. I like to put it in after, once I know that this is perfectly where it goes. So I'm probably going to screw this in. You could nail it, but I like to screw it in case I need to move it just a little. Then I can redo it easily. So yeah, once this is in, then you could put a block back here to fasten this into if you want, just so it doesn't go anywhere. I like to toe screw right down here in the end where it'll hold good. And I line this end here. This is why I like to pre-assemble it down on the ground. Then I also like to toe screw it right here. If you want, you could even toe screw it in the middle here. And now we have a nice solid piece to install out there. With this installed. So that's what that looks like. And then I did put a block in over here, and I got that screwed into this end stud right here and up in the top plate. So that is very nice and solid. Okay, once I get my blocks established on both ends, like over there, then I go in the middle because I don't like to snap that in one whole span because it can sag. So I go in the middle and use a level and level across the fascia right in the middle here, kind of. And then I drive a screw in right on the mark so that I can snap both ways. See how that rotates like that, but it can't fall off. I just have it hanging here still. But just to show you, so I snapped over in that direction, and then I snapped over in that direction. So that works pretty good. I'm going to check it in a couple spots. This fascia is really close, so I'm going to check it in a couple spots just to make sure it's not sagging. But if it is, it's very gradual. But I'm going to double check it with my square and my level. But that's just to kind of give you some ideas how you can do it to cut the span down when you're trying to snap and get your soffit. I got my soffit delivery. So I decided to have the metal company, this is just a local metal place that makes the roofing and everything. I decided to have them just bend the soffit for me. They were going to do it on site, but they couldn't make my driveway, so they ended up just packaging up for me. And they got this 24 gauge, so it's really stiff, really nice stuff, 16-inch wide panels. So that's what I'm doing. I wanted to show you what it looks like. So I got started here. So these are 16 inches, but they do have a little space in between. So I knew it was going to be a little bit oversized, but I decided as long as it ends up with most of a full piece, I don't really care on the backside. I wanted to start with a nice full piece here. So that's what I did. And my boys actually helped me. I could do it 2 at a time with the step ladder without having to move. So I'm going to show it a little bit as I do the other side. I don't have set up for time lapses today, but this is what I came out with on this end. So it's about a 3/4 piece or something like that. I'll do the gable ends the same way here. I'll probably just start on one side and go up over, bend the center one right in the center, and then come down. So I'll see if I can show that a little bit. But for now, we're going to do the bottom edge on the other side. So this is what the steel roofing company also gave me for fastening the soffit. Since you don't do it exposed, you can just use these 1-inch modified truss things basically. So that's what it looks like. So what I've been doing is just setting up the ladder like this, just leaning it up against. I can usually do a couple that way. But Wyatt is going to bring me the pieces. He's been a really good helper. Him and his brothers, they really helped getting the other side. So
you've seen me before setting up the string.
Yeah, you helped me set up the strings. It's a different time of year this now, isn't it?
Yeah.
That was a long time ago. We were barefoot, and I mean you were probably, and we were setting up strings along here. So yeah, Wyatt has been my helper for a lot of this. So now I realized that last one I replayed it a little bit and it didn't show the best of what I did, but I put a screw right here, and for the starter piece I just put it right here. And I usually get it fed into the J channel back here. You can kind of just make sure that it's running parallel, and you'll get an idea. You can see right here where it's tight against, and then you can see to fasten it parallel. So I usually just push up in the middle here a little bit. I don't over tension it, but just to take the flex out of it, and then put a screw right here. So that's all you got to do. Okay, so yeah, I didn't get any time lapses of this side, but got that all run all the way down. So next we can do the ends here. Okay, so I wanted to show you this gable end soffit since I got it done. What I wanted to try to do is to land dead center on a piece in the center, just the way it came out. In order to do that, I had to start with a piece that's this size. So I had to do some measuring, and actually what I did is I measured once I had all these pieces going down the end. I was able to measure because they grow a little bit. They're supposed to be 16 inches, but they are like an 1/8 inch oversized or something, or 1/16. And by the time you get this far, 20 feet, it's quite a bit oversized. So that's what I did, is I measured where I had 20 feet worth of pieces done on the sides like this. And then I was able to get an idea of exactly what I needed to do for a starter. So this starter, what I did is I cut the starter and I bent 1 inch here. So it's going to get pulled up right here by the fascia when it goes on here. So that's what I did. This just kind of gets supported like that for now. And then the way that I finished this off is I had a piece made that's 1.5 inches, the same as the fascia down here. Then up here I think it's 2.5, but it can be 3, whatever, just as long as it caps this off. So this finishes this end off, and then I'm going to have a piece of J channel going here to cap this. And it's kind of a little weird here, but you have to do something here. So I'm just going to put a little siding right here. And I still have to decide yet if my corner trim is going to come all the way up or if it's going to stop here. So figure that out when I'm doing the siding. But as far as that, that's kind of how I finished that out. And it worked out good for center up there in the peak, and my finisher ended up being the same. So however you want to do it, I wanted it to break center on one, but you kind of have to lay that out depending on your distance. Now to get this piece put in here, you can do it before you put your soffit in, which is kind of nice. It makes it a little easier, because what I like to do is, now that I have this F and J in here, you can kind of see it, it's sticking out over. I'm going to cut this back right down to here. I'm not going to touch this, but just right here, which I didn't know quite how it's going to come out. That's why I left it, but I'm going to do that now. Cut it flush. And then this piece is going to cap it. It's just going to run in right to here, because then it's all going to get covered by siding and all that. So I'm going to run it out to here just so it gets covered by the fascia. For example, if I hook on here, you can see they're 20.5. So I can cut my piece at 20.5. And then I know that this is an inch. So I want to cut this is going to come from the bottom. It's going to come up an inch. So I want to cut a notch in here, almost 1.5 inches back to go around this. I'm going to cut this down on the ground and see if I can do it before I get it up here. Then it's just going to slip up in behind this. So I'll show you that in a bit. Okay, I don't have all the same tools as I do at work, so I'm just going to do with what I have. But let's say I'm going to cut this at 20.25 instead of 20.5 because I don't want to interfere with the fascia out here. And you can square this if you want, or you can just eye it because it's all going to get covered. It doesn't have to be perfect cuts. So this stuff all comes in 10'2" from the place I get it from. Usually it's 10'1" to 10'2". So this gave me plenty to do all four, just one stick of it, all four corners. So this, like I had told you earlier when I showed up on the building on the one end that I did, this is 1.5 inches, has a 1/2 inch hem, just like the fascia does. That's what this is called. It's hemmed over. They'll usually ask you if you want it hemmed or not. And then this, I didn't want to hem it because it's going to be hidden under the siding and stuff anyway, and it just makes it bulge out a little bit when it's hemmed. So just to give you an idea. And if you want more material to work with, you can order as wide as you want, but you pay by the square foot, I think. So smaller you can get away with. Do 1 inch. I might do 1 1/16. And then since I'm going to keep this back 1/4 inch, I'm going to go 1 1/4 this way. So I'm going to cut this notch. I would recommend taking your snips with you up on the ladder because chances are you might need to do a little more notching. All right, so that piece is ready to go. I got to take the snips anyway to cut back the F&J channel, but I will do that next. All right, so I got this cut at an angle. It's kind of tucked into this corner here, so it's not sticking out and that. It doesn't look pretty, but it works. So then this just kind of slips in back in here, and then this slips underneath this. See how that finishes that off? Now you're really not going to see this up in here because that's all going to get hidden by your soffit. And then out here, see how the fascia is going to cover all that. Now as long as you're not thicker than 1 inch, which I might be just a tad. So I think I'm going to take a little bit more out of that because I want it to be right 1 inch because my soffit's all 1 inch. And then I can redo it. Now you can see I have it in here. I put 2 nails in it just to hold it. I got it right down tight there. Up here, it's capped off really nicely right here. You can see now the fascia will cover that. Now I can put my soffit piece in. So I wish I had a little better setup here, but I just have a chunk of plywood with some sawhorses, and I'm just kind of doing it with what I have. So maybe you can find a better solution, or you can just do with what you got as well. So when I tried to go through pieces, see how this one has a bad scratch right here? I'm going to use this as my starter because that gets all cut off. So what I did, I want 6 3/4 for my starter, plus I am bending a 1 inch lip on here. This is the tool I have. You can get some different ones. This is just one that I have. This is made by Malco Tools. It's a 12-inch one, but it does like 1/2 inch on this side. Actually, it's 3/8 this side and 1 inch on this. I'll include a link down in the video description below the video if you want to find something like this. You might even be able to get a bigger one. Might get something that works better. This is just what I have, but that 1 inch in mind, because I'm going to bend that lip back like I showed you, I am going to cut this at 7 3/4, an inch longer. This is 24 gauge, so it's really thick. I have a lot of stuff laying around here just because I've been using it, but now what I'm planning to do, I don't really have a better solution for this at the moment, but what I'm doing, I set this on here, and then I got a 2x4 that I can screw in right here. And before I completely snug it down, I like to have it right close to this, maybe just a slight gap of whatever the width of this is when I set it in here, because I don't want it to completely bottom out at this point. Then I can snug this down. So now I can bend it down. And the key with this is to keep it seated all the way in. Now it can slide a little bit with this 2x4, so as you're going down it'll pull it forward. So I know there's better breaks and stuff, but this is just one way to do it. I could leave it bent like this, but I like to usually take it just a tad further so you can just have it on a flat surface, and since it's bent most of the way, by pushing down and over at the same time, you can pretty much get a nice 90 degrees on there. Now, if that ends up being a little too much, you can always trim this off. Like here, you don't have to have it perfect bend, like if it wrinkles a tad, because that's all going to get covered by the fascia when it goes up like this. So let's try it out and see what it looks like. Now, this is the first piece. I already had this put in to test it out, but then I forgot that I hadn't done that yet. So now that's the first piece, and I just kind of hold it up like this, make sure it gets pretty close to this edge. Then the fascia will hold it right where it's supposed to be when it comes across this plane, right across there. It'll hold that perfectly. So that's how you start your first one, then you can just go from there. Okay, so I'm up in the peak, and this is how it came out. So it's not quite center, but it's close to center. See right there? It's about a 1/4 inch off of center, which I can live with that. So what I was going to show you is when you're measuring where to bend this in the peak, you'll have to keep in mind that this is going to be at the bottom of the F and J channel when you're measuring to the center peak. So you don't want to measure at the very tip top of the peak, because the F channel, like, it comes up like this, and so the peak is going to be longer than what this is, but this is going to be down at the bottom of the F channel because it's the bottom of that 1 inch, if that makes sense. So when you get your measurement, you're going to want to make sure to measure at the bottom where the center of the peak is, at the bottom of the F channel. Now I'm doing kind of the same process as before. When I bent that other piece, I'm just using a 2x4 screw down to clamp it into place right along the line that I marked, and then that works pretty good. Then I marked a 8/12 pitch, which is my roof pitch, onto a plywood, so that way I could check the pitch. And so I had to keep bending it a few times to get it to the right spot, so you can do something similar. This is way over me, but I'm hoping I can show this. All right, look at that. If you can see it, I just got to put that up into place where it goes. The peak looks really nice overall. Now to get this where it needs to go, so you could measure this so it's a 1 inch spacing to make sure that you get that pushed up enough, because there's nothing really to hold it otherwise. So yeah, it's probably hard to even see all the way up there, but it looks really good. Love it. Alright guys, well I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Leave me a comment, let me know what your favorite part was and how you think this thing's looking. I'm really happy with how it's turning out. So on the next episode, we're going to be kind of going through the siding. Now, a lot of the siding I couldn't get on camera because it was through the winter. It was really difficult. I did it in kind of such a broken up stages. So I'm going to, I think, go through some of about trimming out windows with J-channel, things like that. But I am going to refer you to Mr. Post Frame on YouTube. He does a lot of great videos about installing siding. So I'm going to refer you to him for some of the details. So be on the lookout for that. But yeah, so I'll catch you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching, guys.